The genesis of one of the most damaging medical controversies of the modern era began not with a bang, but with a publication. In the year 1998, the prestigious British medical journal, The Lancet, published a paper that would ignite a global firestorm of fear and misinformation. The study was authored by Andrew Wakefield, a British surgeon, and 12 other co-authors. It involved a small case series of just 12 children. These children had been referred to the Royal Free Hospital in London with developmental delays and gastrointestinal issues. Wakefield's paper suggested a potential link between the measles, mumps, and rubella, MMR vaccine, and a new syndrome he termed autistic enterocolitis. The findings were presented as preliminary, a call for further research, not a definitive conclusion. However, at a press conference, Wakefield went further than the paper itself. He recommended that parents should opt for single-dose vaccines for measles, mumps, and rubella, rather than the combined MMR shot. This recommendation was not supported by the data in his own paper. The media coverage was immediate and explosive. Headlines seized upon the scariest possible interpretation of the findings. Fear began to permeate communities, particularly among new parents. Vaccination rates for MMR in the United Kingdom started to decline. The scientific community was immediately skeptical of Wakefield's claims. The study's methodology was criticized for its incredibly small sample size. There was no control group to compare the 12 children against. The reliance on parental recall for when symptoms appeared was also a major flaw. Subsequent epidemiological studies, far larger and more robust, were launched to investigate the potential link. A study in Finland in 2000 examined over 500,000 children, found no association between the MMR vaccine and autism. A Danish study in 2002, following more than 537,000 children, reached the same conclusion. Countless other studies across the globe would replicate these findings over the next decade. The scientific consensus was clear and overwhelming. Vaccines do not cause autism. Meanwhile, an investigative journalist named Brian Deere began to dig into Wakefield's original study. His reporting, published in the Sunday Times of London, started to unravel a story of professional misconduct. Deere uncovered that Wakefield had undisclosed financial conflicts of interest. He had been paid by a law firm that was planning to sue vaccine manufacturers. Wakefield had also filed for patents on his own single-dose measles vaccine, which would have been a direct competitor to the MMR. The investigation revealed that the data in the paper had been manipulated. The children's medical histories were altered to better fit the study's desired conclusion. Some of the children were found to have had developmental issues long before they received the MMR vaccine. The entire premise of the paper was not just flawed, it was a deliberate fraud. In 2024, 10 of Wakefield's 12 co-authors formally retracted the interpretation of the original paper. They stated that the data was insufficient to establish a causal link. The General Medical Council, GMC, in the United Kingdom launched a formal investigation into Wakefield's conduct. The hearings were long and detailed, spanning several years. Finally, in 2010, the GMC delivered its verdict. Wakefield was found guilty of serious professional misconduct on multiple charges. He was found to have acted dishonestly and irresponsibly. The GMC struck him off the UK medical register, ending his career as a doctor in his home country. Shortly after the GMC's ruling, The Lancet fully retracted the 1998 paper. The journal's editor declared that the paper was utterly false and that they had been deceived. The scientific chapter of the story was closed, but the social and cultural damage was already done. The anti-vaccine movement had taken root. Fueled by the internet, the debunked theory spread like wildfire. Social media algorithms amplified the most sensational and fear-inducing content. Celebrity endorsements gave the myth an undeserved veneer of credibility. Parents trying to do the best for their children were lost in a sea of conflicting information. The cover-up narrative was compelling. It pitted brave, lone wolf doctors against a monolithic, corrupt pharmaceutical industry. This narrative ignored the global consensus of thousands of independent scientists. The consequences for public health have been severe. Measles, a disease that was once declared eliminated in many regions, made a terrifying comeback. Outbreaks occurred in communities with low vaccination rates. Children too young to be vaccinated were put at risk. Immunocompromised individuals, who rely on herd immunity, became vulnerable. The story of the vaccine-autism link is not a story of scientific debate. The debate was settled conclusively by overwhelming evidence. It is a story about the power of misinformation. It demonstrates how easily fear can overpower data. It is a cautionary tale about the responsibility of researchers, journals, and the media. The conspiracy of a cover-up persists not because of evidence, but in spite of it. It thrives on distrust in institutions. It is fueled by the very human desire to find a simple explanation for a complex condition like autism. The real cover-up was not by science, but by the man who fabricated the initial scare. His fraud has had a long and tragic legacy. The scientific method, however, ultimately worked. It identified the fraud, corrected the record, and produced a mountain of evidence. The challenge that remains is bridging the gap between scientific truth and public understanding. This gap was created by a breach of trust in 1998. The initial study was small, with only 12 subjects. This sample size is statistically insignificant for drawing broad conclusions. Wakefield's press conference created a media narrative separate from the paper. The call for single vaccines was a crucial, unsupported leap. No vaccination rates in the UK dropped to as low as 80% by 2003. Herd immunity requires approximately 95% coverage to be effective for measles. First major study refuting Wakefield was published in The Lancet in 1999. This study by Pacha et al. In Finland found no evidence of a link. The Danish study in 2002 was even more comprehensive. It concluded the evidence argued strongly against a causal relationship. Brian Deer's investigation began in 2024 for the Sunday Times. He discovered that Wakefield was developing a rival measles vaccine. Lawyer paying Wakefield, Richard Barr, was trying to build a lawsuit. Deer found that of the 12 children, only one truly had regressive autism. The paper's claim of a new syndrome was therefore unsubstantiated. The GMC hearing against Wakefield started in July 2007. The proceedings lasted for 217 days in total. The GMC found Wakefield had subjected children to unnecessary and invasive procedures. These included colonoscopies and lumbar punctures without proper ethical approval. Full retraction by The Lancet in February 2010 was a landmark moment. Editor Richard Horton called the paper a fraud. Despite this, Wakefield moved to the United States and became a leading figure in the anti-vaccine movement. He directed a propaganda film in 2016, further promoting his debunked claims. The rise of social media created echo chambers for this misinformation. Parental anxieties were exploited by these online communities. The concept of doing your own research often meant seeking out confirming biases. A 2019 measles outbreak in New York was directly linked to low vaccination rates. Samoa experienced a devastating measles epidemic in 2019, killing over 80 people. The majority of the victims were young children. The Samoan government had to implement a mandatory vaccination program. The persistence of the myth highlights a crisis in science communication. Scientists must find better ways to convey consensus and certainty. The financial motive behind the original fraud is often overlooked by believers. Wakefield stood to gain financially from his own diagnostic tests and vaccines. Cover-up theory requires a global conspiracy of thousands of individuals. This includes doctors, scientists, and public health officials from dozens of countries. The simpler explanation is that the original study was fraudulent. Autism is a complex neurodevelopmental condition with strong genetic roots. Its causes are still being researched by legitimate scientists. Blaming vaccines provides a false, simple target for parental grief and frustration. The legacy of the 1998 paper is a tragic lesson in scientific integrity. It underscores the immense public trust placed in medical journals. The Lancet's initial failure to vet the paper had catastrophic consequences. The peer review process, while not perfect, is a cornerstone of science. In this case, the process failed at the first hurdle. The retraction 12 years later could not undo the damage. The story is a powerful reminder that bad science can have lethal consequences. Public health relies on a fragile chain of trust. Wakefield's actions broke a critical link in that chain. The controversy also revealed the changing media landscape. Legacy media's initial sensationalism gave the story oxygen. The internet then gave it immortality. Fighting this specific piece of misinformation is a continuous, ongoing battle. It requires patience and empathy for those who have been misled. It also requires a firm, unwavering commitment to scientific evidence. The link between vaccines and autism is not a matter of opinion. It is a scientifically settled question. The real story is one of fraud, not of a cover-up. The conspiracy was the lie itself, not the scientific community's response to it. Understanding this history is crucial to preventing similar events in the future. The health of future generations depends on it. Narrative of a cover-up is more exciting than the mundane truth of scientific consensus. This excitement is a powerful tool for capturing public attention. The anti-vaccine movement offers a sense of community to its followers. It provides a tribe and a shared enemy. This sense of belonging can be more powerful than abstract data. The victims of this misinformation are numerous. First are the children who contract preventable diseases. Second are the parents who live in unnecessary fear and guilt. Third is the scientific community, which must divert resources to reprove what is already known. The erosion of trust in public health has wide-ranging implications. It affects everything from pandemic response to routine health advice. The Wakefield affair serves as a permanent case study in medical ethics. It is taught to medical students as a stark warning. The story is not about science versus belief. It is about integrity versus fraud. The path to restoring public trust is long and arduous. It requires a renewed commitment to transparency from all scientific institutions.